One of the really obvious benefits when recruiting in high unemployment is that you obviously have more applicants. And with that, there is actually, you don't have to spend so much money on agency fees if you don't want to, because a lot of people apply, there's a lot of people looking for jobs. So there's a lot of people looking at different portals. So actually, if you post on forums like LinkedIn, or you can post your own jobs, obviously, onto job boards, you're more likely to get an awful lot of applicants that you can go through yourself.
Yeah, the only thing with that is, though, as well, is the potential for mass applications where you just get a shed load of applicants who may not be completely suitable for the role that you're advertising for. Potentially there's a lower caliber of candidates going to be applying for that job, and the time it takes to kind of review all the CVs and respond to them all is clearly going to be increased. The threat there is that the employer can't respond to all of the applicants, which can lead to reputational damage because people expect to get a response from the company and they're not getting it. So a bit of a threat there as well.
One good thing is that a lot of people have less of a notice period or even no notice period at all because of the unemployment levels. And with post-termination restrictions, if someone's left kind of 6 months before and they've got 12 months post-termination restrictions, actually you've only got to wait 6 months for them rather than the full 12. So it does open the doors a lot.
Yeah, I guess with that, if someone's been out of work for an awful long time as well, it does actually, the salary that they would take could be a lot less than what they were on before. And actually, this is price driven, isn't it? And prices, when we're talking about this, is actually salaries. So if there's more applicants and then you've got the pick of the bunch, the salary can actually reduce, and because you've got a wider talent pool to choose from.
The problem with that, though, is that people take lower salaries and you become a stopgap. So if they've previously been on a higher salary and then they're happy to take that reduction, in normal circumstances, they would never take a salary lower than their previous role. And if they are this time, then there is a danger that they will leave within 6 months and then you're in the same position again.
And with that, you've got an issue of potential team morale being affected. If people are just coming in and leaving really quickly, that generally has a pretty negative impact on team morale.
I think that you're right that yes, team morale will suffer, but when it's high unemployment, there's nowhere to go. So they might just be quiet and not say anything, but you're not going to get that natural churn that you would normally have in the course of business. Of people that are slightly upset, they'll look at the job market and they'll go. And those people that get like that, they're not going to go voluntarily. So they're just going to stay and they'll do the job, and they'll probably do the job as well as they always did, to be honest.
There is that unemployment bias as well, isn't there? Where if you've got multiple candidates for a role, the interviewer will naturally and subconsciously kind of be more towards the ones that are currently employed than those that are unemployed, even if the people that are unemployed are absolutely amazing, do a fantastic interview. And there's a real danger there for discrimination, like indirect discrimination, because the people that are unemployed might more likely be a certain age or from a certain background. So if you think about voluntary redundancy, for example, someone's more likely to take voluntary redundancy if they're going to get a good package. And the reason they get a good package is because they've been somewhere a long time. If they've been somewhere a long time, they're more likely to be a certain age group. So there is that risk there.
Yeah, and the other thing as well with the unemployment bias is that there is also the threat of your good talent being poached by another organisation. If people are out there looking for a candidate for their role and they're getting those mass applications come in and there's no one suitable, they might start looking on LinkedIn and be thinking, oh, they're employed, they're in a good job. Oh, I wonder if they're interested in my job.
I think if you can get rid of unemployment bias, there's an awful lot of positives here, because Amy, you're absolutely right. The people that get the bigger packages tend to be, they could be older because they've been there longer, and that that does mean that you could look at candidates that you wouldn't normally look at because they're now on the market where they wouldn't have been before. They've come from a sector or an industry that you're not actually normally going to recruit from. And yes, you've got the pick of the bunch of other people, but actually these people are applying that never would have done before, and they could add quite a lot to your organization. So if you can ditch the unemployment bias and start looking a bit less blinkered, you actually might pick up some really good talent with some really good transferable skills.
Yeah,
that's so true. Also, there's a lot of opportunity there for employers to be more flexible with contract options as well, or have more flexibility for themselves. So people usually shy away from fixed term contracts or temp to perm contracts or even casual contracts. But actually, when someone's unemployed, they're more likely to apply for these types of roles. And actually, it gives the employer then that confidence when they've employed them on a temporary basis to then give them a permanent role when they turn out great.
Yeah, there's another opportunity there as well. I think with high unemployment, in that you can make sure that your recruitment and selection process is that much more thorough, that you're properly assessing people, and you're perhaps more likely then to be able to get the right person for the job.
I think be careful with that though. If you make it too onerous and you start making them go through 12-stage processes just because you can, because you're trying to find the the absolute perfect candidate, which, let's be honest, doesn't really exist. I think if by the time you do get to the stage where you've offered, they're so disengaged in the process that they might take the job because they haven't got any other offers and bird in hand and all that, and they'll take it. And from day one, they're just not really with it, and they're not really for you anymore, and where they were at the beginning.
Looking at the takeaways from that, then, I think the first thing on the list is consider the application process and make sure it's fit for purpose.
But don't be tempted to drag it out too long.
And if you can, offer market rate salaries.
With less natural churn, you need to continue to manage performance and attitude within your teams.
And you can consider recruiting from outside of your industry.
Train your managers on that unconscious bias to make sure you're not missing out on some great people joining.
And look after your existing employees to retain the good talent that you've got.
And review the structure. You can consider temp to perm contract options. There's a lot more flexibility now.